Today is the 22nd Sunday of Ordinary Time, Cycle C. The book of Sirach is considered a book of wisdom that gives us loving advice of a good father. My child, conduct your affairs with humility, and you will be loved more than a giver of gifts. Kindness flows from humility. I am sure each of us can remember acts of kindness we received and the person who were kind to us. In Jesus' time, the culture was more class conscious and one of honor and shame. While Pharisees were observing Jesus closely at the dinner, he was doing the same to them. He noticed their habit of seeking honor by selecting important seats. Jesus' advice to them was to be careful when you chose a place of honor. Someone more important than you may displace you later. One ought to assume the lowest place of honor, and the host will take you to a more important place. If you are taking a lowly place with the expectation of being asked to move up to a more important place, this is false humility. What if the host is busy and does not notice you? Can you still enjoy the dinner at that place? The more relevant lesson for us today is to recognize our equality as we gather around the table of the Lord at the Mass. In Jesus' time, one would only invite people to one's party if they had the ability to invite you to their party. Can you invite people who are poor and lowly, who can offer you nothing in return for your invitation to one of your parties? On our birthdays, we normally expect to receive gifts. However, some people help the poor and needy on their birthdays as a thanksgiving to God, rather than to be more expecting of gifts for themselves. To be humble means to be down to earth, modest, or meek. No task should be considered too lowly for you. Like, I do not mop floors. I do not take out garbage. It is a voluntary posture and not one taken out of fear. The opposite of being humble is to be arrogant, egocentric, prideful, pompous, conceited, or having a false sense of entitlement. You need to know that in the eyes of God, you are loved, and you are a special child regardless of your challenges. If you do not feel good about yourself, if you do not feel loved, you will always obsess with your outer image to the world. You will suffer from low self-esteem and will not be able to admit errors or apologize for mistakes. you try to cover up your low self-esteem with items of luxury. Why do some people feel superior to others? Some have a false sense of self, like a boxer who thinks he is the next Muhammad Ali when he is not. Reality will correct him when a minor problem knocks him out. Authority over others, however, does not give you the right to disrespect their dignity as fellow human beings. If you have more money than others, your responsibility is to share your blessings. If you are more intelligent than others, we need to recognize that the blessings like intelligence is a two-edged sword and is a gift from God, which can be used for good or bad, to help or to harm others. We can choose only to criticize others or to teach, help, and correct them. If you do not recognize God as the source of our good fortune, you can become arrogant, conceited, and condescending when you communicate with others. If you are very intelligent, unless you recognize your blessings came from God, you may treat others as stupid rather than ordinary. Repeat that, very important. If you are very intelligent, the danger is that you treat others as stupid rather than ordinary. In this case, you're called to be patient and understanding with your co-workers and to be a good teacher rather than a harsh critic. Humility is required for holiness. If you are humble, you will be able to give up your right for the sake of Christian charity. For example, if your music, which is not vulgar, annoys your grandmother, do not play it when she is around. Technically, you may have the right to play what you like, but out of consideration and respect for your grandmother, you will not play the kind of music that annoys her. Sometimes, not always, you may choose to do something which is not normally, which you will not normally do, but you will do it because the other person enjoys it and because you love that person. Humility allows us to do these things. It's not always about us. Sometimes it's just being kind to others. Saint Maximilian Kolbe took the place of a father who was about to be executed, so as to preserve the family of the man to be executed. When he was chosen to be executed because some prisoners had escaped, he said, "My wife and my children." And hearing he had a wife and children, Maximilian substituted himself. Without humility, we can never submit our lives to the will of God. The ways of God are not always the ways of man. God often asks us to do what may appear unreasonable. Abraham finally had a son with Sarah, his wife in their old age. And then God asked him to sacrifice the boy. Mary was asked to bear a child before her wedding night. That would have ruined her marriage to Joseph and caused her public ridicule for being pregnant not by her husband. Without humility and trusting God, we'll never be able to say what Mary said to the angel. I am the handmaid of the Lord. Be it done unto me according to your word.